Local groups are still calling for the Confederate monument in front of the Madison County Courthouse to be removed as cities across the country take similar steps. And tomorrow, Huntsville's youth will be marching for change. Our Sydney Stallworth gives us the latest on this Confederate controversy.
If they wanted it to be taken down, it could have been taken down.
Just last week, Huntsville City Council voted to make space for the Confederate monument at Maple Hill Cemetery, but the statue doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. On June 10th, the Madison County Commission voted to get permission from the state to remove the statue, citing the 2017 Alabama Memorial Preservation Act and the risk of paying a $25,000 fine. So weeks later, the statue still stands in front of the courthouse.
We have already seen Birmingham take down a monument. We have already seen a monument in the heart of Tuscaloosa's University of Alabama campus be taken down.
Birmingham and Mobile removed Confederate monuments and paid the fine. Groups are demanding that Huntsville and Madison County follow suit.
If NASCAR and the Marines and the Navy can ban Confederate symbols, if Mississippi can, vote to take the Confederate symbol out of their flag, the Confederate flag out of a part of their flag, if all this stuff can happen, statewide, nationwide, it's really no reason for this monument to still be standing besides the simple fact that they just don't want to take it down.
We asked some passing by what they think.
I think it's time to move the statues. I think going to Maple Hill just makes a lot of sense.
Perfect.
Tomorrow, the Valley's young people will raise their voices for change in a march put on by the Rosa Parks Committee and other groups.
We're failing them as a generation if we let this go on. I don't want to have to pass my signs down to my kids.
The Youth Walk hosted by the Rosa Parks Committee will kick off tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Participants will walk from Big Spring Park here to Madison County Courthouse and stand in front of the Confederate monument. They'll observe 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence in honor of George Floyd. Putting the Valley first, Sydney Stallworth, WZDX News.